Hello beautiful people, welcome to the channel. Reverend Debbie here, hope you're doing well. Today's video, can women trust the police when they have to report SA, DV or grape? I have a lot of questions around this, and in my experience, when I have reported SA, DV, grape and an attempted unaliving, the police were, well, they sent a woman for the last time, which was great. But can we trust the police in other areas? And I'm talking about male policemen. Okay, I'm talking about policemen, not police women. So an article showed up on my feed this morning from The Independent. It's written by Amy Claire Martin. She's the crime correspondent. This is actually from yesterday. But Met Police in High Court over right to sack rogue officers in vetting row after the Sarah Everard murder. Now, for those of you who don't know who Sarah Everard was, she was unalived during the COVID lockdown here in the UK. It was just after the time when part of the lockdown had been lifted and we were allowed to go out in the evening and so on. And Sarah Everard was just walking home, and Wayne Couzens picked her up. Don't know how that happened, but he picked her up. He was off duty. He wasn't in uniform, apparently. And then he drove her down to Devon. He graped her, then he unalived her, and he set her on fire in a woods down in Kent. He was eventually found with, being guilty of this. So that is great. However, we know that there is a level of misogyny within the police, within the male police, that happens. Patriarchal misogyny, historic, systemic. And even female police officers have complained about these abuses. However, most of it is ignored. Most of it is then attacked. The female police officers are attacked by the rest of the force, the men, bullied into not reporting those claims or dropping those claims. Therefore, it appears that these claims are false, but they're not. In institutions like the police force, many men will bully women. We know that sexual harassment happens in all areas of life. Doesn't matter where you work, where you live, you are going to encounter SA, SV, DV. You are going to encounter it, whether it's yourself or somebody you know. And many women don't come forward to report these crimes. Why? And a lot of men will say, well, they're not really crimes, they're false. And then when the woman does report these crimes, she is, in these instances with the police force and many other patriarchal, or specifically patriarchal, historical patriarchal businesses or, governmental departments, they are bullied until there comes to a point where they drop the case, because why would a woman put herself through all of that? It takes very strong women to go through with cases, because in court she is going to have to face the witness, the perpetrator. She can ask for a screen to be put in place, but she's got to face this person. She has got to relive for goodness knows how many times what she went through. She is going to be told, well, what were you wearing? What were you doing? Did you encourage this? Had you previously said something to this person? And yada, yada, yada. And women, the victim, are then made to feel that they are the perpetrator, that they are falsely accusing this man, and the man is then, seen as the victim because it's been falsely reported. Now, I want to say something here. I've had a lot of comments over the last few days on some of the reporting that I've been doing around the Marilyn Manson case and Andrew Tate and various other cases that I've been covering, that, oh, well, women lie. Some do. I'm not going to dispute that. But in my sphere of friends, in my life, in my 55 years of life, every single woman I know has gone through some kind of SVSHSADV. So SH is sex harassment. And that includes things like upskirting, being catcalled, being groped in a public place, being flashed at, and so many more things. So when we look at the police force, how comfortable do women feel about going to the police force and reporting these kinds of crimes? So I'm going to read this article. I'd really love to know what you think about this, and if you've experienced anything like that where you've reported a harassment or a violation against you or a grape, and the police may have bullied you, or even perhaps the perpetrator bullied you. So the article. The Met is fighting a high court battle over its ability to sideline officers as a sergeant accused of multiple unproven sex attacks challenges their bid to dismiss him. So he's been charged with multiple sex attacks. Multiple. Think about that. It's not just one woman, it's several women who have come forwards. The Metropolitan Police has warned a legal challenge launched by an officer facing the sack over unproven allegations of rape and domestic abuse will render them powerless to dismiss rogue officers if the claim succeeds. True. So where does a woman stand? You know, a woman who works in the police force, where does she stand if she is harassed, groped, or worse? This person won't be dismissed. You know, when we apply for jobs in certain fields, I was a yoga instructor and I had to apply for my DBT, my check, through the government, through the police force and so on, to check that I didn't have any legal issues that had been put against me, or legal claims that I hadn't hurt anybody, injured anybody, and so on and so on. Nurses have to go through it. Doctors have to go through it. Psychologists have to have that, because you're dealing with vulnerable people. And you may not think that yoga, you're dealing with vulnerable people, but when you need your insurance for teaching yoga, that DBT check actually helps you with that insurance. And if somebody is injured in your class and they're an older person and you know, they have, say, for example, osteoporosis. I used to teach a restorative yoga class for ladies of a certain age and above. And they would fill in a form to say that they, you know, were responsible for their own bodily problems if they had any, and that I couldn't be held responsible. But there is always that fear. And I also used to teach at a college with students. And so it was necessary that I had that background check. So this policeman is now wanting to stay on the police force, and he's been accused of these things. Yes, nothing has gone to court yet, nothing has been proven, but with so many allegations, you know, where do we look as women? Where do we look? What protection do we have? Because if this happens in the police force, where else is it going to happen? The force revoked Sgt Lino Di Maria's vetting clearance after receiving multiple public complaints about his conduct towards women, including what court documents describe as 2 essays, grapes in cars in public car parks. He denies the allegations, has not been charged with nor convicted of any offence. He has lodged a judicial review in the High Court challenging the validity of a vetting overhaul launched after a series of scandals, including the kidnap and murder of Sarah Everard by serving Met Police officer Wayne Couzens. So, as I mentioned, he was the man who raped and unalived Sarah Everard. And this comes to the point where, as women, can we trust the police? Wayne Couzens was known in the police force. His nickname was the Grapist. People knew about this. His colleagues knew about this, and they enabled him by not doing anything about it. John Beggs, KC, that's the King's Counsel, leading the Met's legal team, said the case raised the fundamental issue of whether a chief officer is entitled to sack officers who cannot clear the basic vetting procedures. Vetting is crucial to the integrity of the police service, to the confidence that a chief officer of police can have in their officers, and to public confidence in the police, he said in written arguments submitted to the court. And that's true. You know, if you are a police chief and these allegations have been placed against a subordinate working for you, what do? How do you deal with that? There needs to be a process in place. And in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, that person should be fired. Especially when there are numerous allegations. If there's only one, then maybe. But you know what my rule is, guys, is that I always believe the victim. Why? Because I am a survivor of those things, and many of those things, not just one issue, not just two issues, but many issues where I have been essayed, DV'd, graped, and so on. Vetting is crucial to the integrity of the police service, to the confidence that a chief officer of police can have their officers, and to public confidence in the police, he said in written arguments submitted to the court. Sorry, I've just repeated that. Sgt Di Maria was accused of assaulting a woman who he met at the gym in a Tesco car park, and she was leaving the gym on 2 dates in 2018. Not dates as in going out with a person, she was leaving the gym on 2 specific days. The court heard he insisted the encounters were consensual, and a criminal investigation resulted in no further action after the woman withdrew her support for the investigation. Why did she withdraw her support? Was she bullied by the police? Was she advised by the police that this may not result in the outcome that she wished for? Women often retract their statements. Why? Because of being bullied, because of fear, and because of the length of time it takes for these things to go to court. As I said, only the brave women will carry on with that claim until it goes to court and until there is some sort of outcome. Because women have to go through a healing process. Women want to get on with their lives just like everybody else. So it is up to the woman. And one question that you are asked by the police in this country, if you are reporting charges like these, is, will you be prepared to go to court? Yes. And another thing that women often say in this case is, I don't want to ruin their life. But they have ruined your life. Police also received reports alleging he touched a British Transport Police officer's leg and exposed himself to her in 2015. Sgt Di Maria said it was consensual, and the complainant later retracted the allegation. Again, was she bullied? How long did it take? Did she change career? What happened to that woman? We don't know. There's no name here. Further reports were received alleging domestic abuse towards an ex-partner in 2022, inappropriate workplace behaviour in 2021, and sending inappropriate messages to a colleague in 2019. Guys, do you see the pattern here? He has been accused of all of these things, and yet he is claiming that he's going to lose his job. Well, boo-hoo. Boo-hoo. Yes, this will go to court. Yes, this will be, looked at by the court officers, the judge, I don't think the High Court has a jury. I'm not 100% sure. I will need to check that. But if there are so many allegations from different people, what do you believe? Sgt Di Maria denies any wrongdoing, and independent police misconduct processes found the sergeant, who joined the force in 2004 and last passed his vetting in 2017, had no case to answer over the complaints. And again, were these women being bullied? Did they want to stop the cases because it's just too much for them? They've got to relive this trauma over and over again. However, he was referred for vetting review after his case was flagged as part of Operation Onyx, a probe into domestic and SA allegations against Met staff launched in the wake of a series of scandals. Sgt Di Maria had his vetting removed in September 2023, and an appeal against this decision was refused. He now faces a gross incompetence hearing, which will result in his dismissal, but he has launched a judicial review claiming the process is not lawful. So what is lawful? He has faced a gross incompetence hearing. He was vetted and removed in September. So how can we as women trust male police officers? The claim concerns the lawfulness of a process by which a police officer can be removed from public office consequent of the removal of vetting. Kevin Bomber, counsel for Sgt Di Maria, told the High Court on Wednesday. The claimant faces accusations of gross misconduct which were investigated and found that there was no case to answer in respect of them. And again, it comes back to women retracting their claims because of bullying, because of fear, because of the length of time it takes for these allegations to get to court, and the fact that they want to heal and get rid of this trauma. And these men go on to repeat these offences again and again and again, as we can see here. The sergeant is challenging the vetting dismissal process he was subject to under Operation Assure, the Met's programme to root out rogue officers. Under Operation Assure, officers subject to adverse allegations will be referred to have their vetting reviewed. If they decide to revoke the officer's vetting, the officer has the right to appeal. If that fails, they will be referred to a gross incompetence hearing where they will likely be dismissed. The original allegations do not have to be proven for their vetting to be revoked. I agree with that. If there is more than one allegation, there is a pattern. There is a pattern. Do these women know each other? Have they discussed this and said, okay, we're going to get him? I don't know, because I don't know who these women are. But it's highly unlikely, isn't it? Mr. Bomber told the hearing in front of Mrs. Beverly Justice Lang the officer was challenging the Met's decision on a number of grounds, including his right to a fair trial under Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights. What's funny here is the right wing here in the UK, the Reform Party and the Tories and various other right-wing parties, want us to step out of the European Convention on Human Rights. So if we did, would this guy go free? What protection would the victims have? He said it was a concern that an officer could go through a detailed conduct procedure which concludes that they need not be dismissed, only to be fired following an internal management decision anyway. Well, I've worked for companies, and when people are fired or dismissed, there's an internal procedure that is gone through. But the Met, which is defending the decision to remove his vetting, has warned that if Sgt Di Maria's challenge succeeds, chiefs will be powerless to remove officers subject to multiple credible pieces of adverse information. So then we would have a police force of crims. Again, who can we as women trust when we need to report these things? This is just another step for the patriarchy to block women's rights. Mr. Beggs said losing that right would place chiefs in a hopeless position of being unable to comply with official guidance from the College of Policing or meet integrity standards demanded by the police watchdog. Vetting and the ability to exclude officers who cannot maintain vetting clearance is, for instance, critical to ensuring that those who pose a risk of violence and sexual impropriety against women and girls are identified. Risk to female members of the public and officers is reduced, and their confidence in the police is increased. The two-day hearing continues, so it's going to continue today. When I see the results of this, I will record another video. Guys, I've got so many videos that I've recorded already that I need to release. And I'm on the Women's March this weekend in Sheffield. So busy time for me, as well as still doing my university work and, you know, other things that a woman has to do in life. So tell me what your thoughts are about this. If you were a victim or a survivor of SA or Grape, what did you experience when you reported it to the police? Did you report it to the police or didn't you? Didn't you report it to the police because you were afraid of this kind of thing happening? The length of time it takes for the case to go to court, the fact that you are disbelieved, the fact that you are seen as the actual perpetrator and not the victim. And then the perpetrator becomes the victim because I'm being blamed for this and I didn't do anything. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Hope to see you next time. Blessed be.